My belief is we need the administration to have the space to do what it is doing, and if further congressional action is necessary or appropriate, then we'll look at that. But I don't think we're at that point right now because we agree with the president.
So no vote on this resolution before
No,
August
no.
recess.
We had this up.
MAGA Mike está completamente en pánico. Así es, señores. Mike Johnson decidió cerrar la Cámara de Representantes. La razón: dice que va a forzar un receso legislativo para evitar una votación sobre la publicación de los archivos de Jeffrey Epstein. La presión, mis amigos, ha aumentado tanto en el Capitolio, especialmente hacia los republicanos, ¿no? Ya que sus propios votantes son lo que les están exigiendo a diario que revelen estos documentos. Pero Mike Johnson cree que si logra retrasar las cosas, por lo menos hasta agosto, entonces Trump podría inventarse alguna jugada para esquivar la liberación de los archivos. Así que lo que está haciendo Mike Johnson es básicamente congelar el Congreso. Ha instruido al Comité de Reglas que bloquee una norma clave, lo cual impide que nuevas leyes lleguen al Pleno para ser votadas. En otras palabras, amigos, el Congreso está paralizado. Y todo esto porque los republicanos MAGA, bajo órdenes de Trump, tienen miedo de lo que contiene los archivos de Jeffrey Epstein. Voy a mostrarles las pruebas de todo esto, pero primero quiero que veamos cómo fue que el día de ayer MAGA Mike Johnson fue cuestionado directamente en la Cámara.
For the August recess.
So here's what I would say about the Epstein files. There is no daylight between the House Republicans, the House, and the president on maximum transparency. He has said that he wants all the credible files related to Epstein to be released. He's asked the Attorney General to request the grand jury files of the court. All of that is in process right now. My belief is we need the administration to have the space to do what it is doing, and if further congressional action is necessary or appropriate, then we'll look at that. But I don't think we're at that point right now because we agree with the president.
So no vote on this resolution before
No,
August
no.
recess.
We had this up.
Y es que yo me pregunto, ¿espacio para qué? ¿Para seguir encubriendo todo esto? Otros republicanos MAGA, como lo es Warren Davidson, están diciendo que quieren que Pam Bondi testifique ante la Cámara de Representantes. Escuchen.
I don't really see why we would do anything other than bring Pam Bondi in and say, to committee of jurisdiction and say, please explain. I mean,
But you want to hear her testify, Pam Bondi?
yeah, I mean, I'm not on that committee, but, I really would like the committee of jurisdiction to bring her in and say, hey, you start this off, you've got binders, please explain. We are led to believe there are going to be some prosecutions. If we're going to prosecute, we assume there's going to be convictions. And I think that's really the disconnect.
Meredith Lee, quien cubre todo lo relacionado con el Congreso, escribió que los líderes republicanos le van a dar tiempo a la Casa Blanca durante el receso de agosto para que decidan cómo manejar la información relacionada con Epstein. Ralph Norman, conservador MAGA muy duro y miembro del Comité de Reglas, dijo que no presentarán ninguna norma esta semana para permitir el avance de proyectos de ley. O sea, básicamente, lo que les expliqué en el otro video, bloquean completamente el funcionamiento de la Cámara. La razón muy simple: no quieren que se vote sobre las enmiendas de los demócratas para liberar los archivos de Epstein, porque según él, los demócratas solo están haciendo espectáculo político. Así que decidieron no hacer nada más esta semana en la Cámara, con tal de evitar esta discusión. Jake Sherman, otro periodista que cubre el Congreso, lo ha explicado en el contexto. El Comité de Reglas tiene que aprobar una norma para que el presidente de la Cámara, Mike Johnson, pueda poner proyectos en la agenda del Pleno. Pero ahora el comité está totalmente estancado, o sea, por la forma en la cual Johnson está manejando el tema de Epstein. Resultado: el Congreso no puede avanzar en nada importante esta semana. Recordemos que durante el fin de semana Johnson apareció en el programa de Mark Levin. Y Mark Levin estaba como: tenemos que estar unidos detrás de Trump, que basta de hablar de Epstein. Y ahí estaba, ¿no? Mike Johnson asistiendo con la cabeza, como un soldadito, aceptando todo lo que ordene su papi Trump. Escuchen.
We have a lot to run on, and you have a lot to run against, given the other party. But I will tell you this: we better be united, we better be strong, we better be focused, we better be articulate. We can't waste our time on Epstein and other stuff that are going on here that some people want us to focus on. I've about had it with all that stuff. We better focus on who we are, what we're doing, where we want to take the country, and what they want to do to the country. Mr. Speaker, God bless you, my friend. I appreciate you very, very much.
You too, Mark. Thanks for all you do. God bless.
Ahora bien, el hecho de que Johnson dijera que iba a enviar al Congreso a un receso sin votar nada relacionado con Epstein, llegó hasta sorprender incluso a algunos de sus colegas MAGAs, porque algunos querían que se hiciera una votación completa. Por ejemplo, Andy Harris, miembro republicano del Congreso y presidente del House Freedom Caucus, dijo que no cree que Mike Johnson vaya a ignorar el tema de Epstein, pues él cree, o bueno, se engaña creyendo que Johnson sí lo va a poner en la agenda. Dijo que se lo comentó directamente y que Johnson incluso lo dijo en cámara. Pues aún así agregó, bueno, todavía tenemos tiempo esta semana, ¿no? Señores, ya estamos a miércoles. Mientras tanto, otros republicanos MAGA como Thomas Massie, que es uno de los mayores defensores de que se publiquen estos archivos, también aprovechó para criticar a Johnson. Creo que fue uno de los que votó contra el desastroso presupuesto de Trump, ¿no? Escuchemos lo que dijo.
What do you make of the speaker's handling of this issue over the past couple of weeks?
I think he's scared. I think he's terrified.
Of what?
I think, well, I mean, 80% of MAGA, once these files released, they were promised this, they expected this, and it's not happening. But at the same time, he feels an allegiance to President Trump, who's gone against the MAGA base on this. So I think he's torn. I think the right thing to do would be just leave it up to the people's house. Let us vote on whether to release these files or not. And I hope he does not try to use some kind of parliamentary procedure to subvert or hide the release of these files.
Just to follow up on what you said earlier, of like you don't think the public pressure is going to go away over the next 5 weeks. Do you see it lasting as long as the 26 midterms? If that follows Republicans through that, depending on how they vote.
This will be an issue that does follow Republicans through the midterms, and it will follow each individual Republican through the midterms. It will follow people into their primaries. Did you support transparency and justice, or did you come up here, get elected, and fall into the swamp? Did you decide that getting reelected was more important than exposing a pedophilia ring and a blackmail ring? If you did, then maybe you shouldn't be coming back. And that'll be a referendum in every primary and every general election in the United States in 2026, which is why I'm urging people to get onto my resolution to co-sponsor the release of these files before we go into August recess. There's only 6 legislative days between when I released this, introduced this bipartisan resolution and the August recess, but we need 7 legislative days to start collecting signatures and force the vote. As soon as we get back, there's going to be a vote on this. Unless the speaker...
Y aquí va otra intervención de Thomas Massie, en el cual pues expone claramente todo este encubrimiento que es el que está llevando a cabo Mike Johnson. Escuchen.
Well, it wouldn't really matter. Their Epstein bill resolution is non-binding, so it's kind of fake. The resolution that I have co-sponsored with Ro Khanna would actually bring up legislation that would be binding on the president.
Is your understanding that will ripen the day after lawmakers get back from August recess?
Yeah, unfortunately, we have 6 days and we needed 7 days for the discharge petition to ripen before we could bring this up before the August recess. So we'll have to bring it up after the August recess. But the good news is the speaker has no interest in keeping us here 1 extra day because this will ripen in an extra day.
Have you heard from the president?
I've not heard from the president directly.
Como dijo Massie, ¿no? ¿Qué decir respecto al receso de agosto? No creo que esto le vaya a salir bien a Mike Johnson. Creo que la presión por la transparencia va a seguir creciendo. Calcula que al menos 12 republicanos y las firmas suficientes van a forzar una votación sobre la propuesta. Y bueno, mientras todo esto pasa, la hija de Martin Luther King Jr., que es Bernice King, publicó una foto de su padre justo cuando el gobierno de Trump anunció que van a publicar los archivos de King hoy. A lo que ella pues responde, está bien, pero ¿podemos publicar los archivos de Epstein, por favor? Y al mismo tiempo también el líder de la líder demócrata Hakeem Jeffries fue muy claro. Epstein era amigo de Trump.
Let's be clear about the situation here. Jeffrey Epstein was a friend of Donald Trump. Jeffrey Epstein was arrested during the Trump administration. Jeffrey Epstein was detained during the Trump administration. Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide during the Trump administration. Trump administration officials have said prior to arriving in Washington in positions of prominence, including at the FBI and the Department of Justice, that they were going to release the Epstein files. Trump administration officials are now in a position to release the Epstein files. Does any of that, in your view, have anything to do with President Joe Biden? Why do we think President Joe Biden or President Barack Obama's names are being invoked? Because Donald Trump is running scared. And the Trump administration is running scared. What are they hiding from the American people? Release the files so that the American people can make a decision on their own. This has nothing to do with a Democratic-led conspiracy theory. And the facts and the chronology make that clear.
Y bueno, no podemos olvidar a la principal vocera propagandística de Trump, Caroline Leavitt, que también está corriendo con mucho miedo porque le preguntaron directamente por qué Trump no le ordena al FBI publicar los archivos que se supone que ya tienen en su poder. Porque sí, los tienen. Hablamos de 300 gigas de información. Hay intercepciones, hay registros, fotografías, listas. O sea, absolutamente todo con quien Epstein se comunicaba está ahí. Recuerden que allanaron las casas, la isla, todo. Y sí, algunos testimonios ante el gran jurado no pueden salir aún. Pero eso es solo una pequeña parte. El FBI tiene los documentos. Solo hay que publicarlos. Y bueno, Caroline Leavitt respondió esto.
The president has said if the Department of Justice and the FBI want to move forward with releasing any further credible evidence, they should do so. As to why they have or have not or will, you should ask the FBI about.
Lo notaron, ¿no? Cómo ahora culpa directamente al FBI. Y ojo, que lo hace de nuevo, miren.
There are reports that President Trump or the FBI agents going through the Epstein files were told to flag President Trump's name if it came up. Is that something the president was aware of or something that he directed those agents or the Department of Justice to do?
I don't believe that's something the White House was aware of. You'd have to ask the FBI.
Así que ahí lo tienen, amigos. MAGA Mike Johnson huyendo la Casa Blanca en modo pánico. ¿Y por qué? Porque Donald Trump y Jeffrey Epstein eran extremadamente cercanos, y porque Mar-a-Lago fue una de las locaciones donde se cometieron bastantes crímenes de tráfico por parte de Epstein. Ahora bien, señores, quiero que pasemos al siguiente tema porque tenemos mucha información, y es que, por si no están enterados, Donald Trump ha lanzado ciertas acusaciones directas contra el expresidente Obama, diciendo que él fue el líder de la banda en el supuesto intento de robarle las elecciones 2016. Por supuesto, completamente falso, ¿no? Porque no hay ni una sola prueba que pueda respaldar esta teoría. Lo más grave es que él lo saben sus asesores, lo sabe incluso su propia inteligencia. Pero bueno, aún así lanzan estas bombas mediáticas porque nuevamente se necesita una cortina de humo para poder distraer al país del caos que se ha generado tras el tema del caso Epstein. Archivos que, como bien sabemos, prometió revelar por completo y que ahora amenazan con salpicarlo directamente. Vamos a ir directo con la nota y luego analizamos punto por punto. Escuchen.
Donald Trump stooping to an ugly new low, even for him. He's making a claim that will be heard the world over, reviving an old and familiar and rather tired tactic of accusing a perceived political enemy of treason. Only this time, the subject was his first-term predecessor, former President Barack Obama.
The leader of the gang was President Obama. He's guilty. It's not a question. I like to say, let's give it time. It's there. He's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election.
He made that baseless, unsubstantiated, rather ludicrous accusation today in the Oval Office. It follows baseless, unsubstantiated claims from his Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard said that President Obama's officials engaged in a, quote, seditious conspiracy and hid evidence that Russia did not interfere in the 2016 election. Donald Trump's claims today, an accusation of a crime that is punishable by death, so outrageous that they drew this rare rebuke from President Barack Obama's office. It reads, quote, out of respect for the office of the presidency, our office does not normally dignify the constant nonsense and misinformation flowing out of this White House with a response. But these claims are outrageous enough to merit one. These bizarre allegations are ridiculous and a weak attempt at distraction. Nothing in the document issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 presidential election, but did not successfully manipulate any votes. These findings were affirmed in a 2020 report by the Bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee, led by then Chairman Marco Rubio. The very same Marco Rubio, little Marco to Donald, who currently serves as Trump's Secretary of State and National Security Advisor. His report concluded that Russia conducted an influence campaign in 2016 to do this, quote, harm the Clinton campaign, tarnish an expected Clinton presidential administration, help the Trump campaign after Trump became the presumptive Republican nominee, and undermine the U.S. democratic process. That conclusion was further bolstered earlier this month when Donald Trump's current CIA director, a man named John Ratcliffe, released a review that, as NBC News points out, quote, did not refute the findings of the intelligence assessment that Russia sought to interfere in the election. Now, as for these wild and erratic and unfounded attempts by Tulsi Gabbard and Donald Trump to rewrite their own version of history and provide a distraction from the Jeffrey Epstein debacle that has completely engulfed Donald Trump and his White House. They're claiming that the Obama administration concealed evidence that Russia did not try to manipulate votes. But that's Orwellian doublespeak. It's not what Obama's officials ever claimed in the first instance. It was always about an influence campaign. Here was President Obama explaining it on December 16th, 2016.
I can assure the public that there was not the kind of tampering with the voting process that was of concern and will continue to be of concern going forward, that the votes that were cast were counted. They were counted appropriately. We have not seen evidence of machines being tampered with. So that assurance I can provide.
That is where we start the hour with ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Jim Himes of Connecticut. Also joining us, staff writer at The Atlantic and a contributor to The Atlantic Daily Newsletter, Tom Nichols is here. And former DHS Chief of Staff during Trump's first term, Miles Taylor, is back with us. Congressman, let me start with you, and let me show you one more piece of sound. This is Tulsi Gabbard echoing the very same thing that President Obama says in that tape I just played to Joe Rogan.
When you're talking about like these Russian troll farms that you mentioned, what is missing from all of the news coverage around this and all of the outrage about how this foreign country is trying to influence our elections, which is wrong and which the American people need to be aware of where this information is coming from, is the fact that and you're saying, why does somebody do that? Well, because this country does want to influence who we're electing, right?
Yes.
Like, oh, we'd rather work with this person. We know that person is not going to be nice to us.
Congressman, your thoughts on this Rubicon crossing news cycle?
Well, that's a very different Tulsi Gabbard. That was Tulsi Gabbard before she was in the employ of Donald Trump and before she saw a political route to power and influence. And now, of course, we have a radically different Tulsi Gabbard. You didn't play, by the way, any sound of then Senator Marco Rubio, chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, who wrote and got a unanimous vote from Democrats and Republicans of an investigation of the Russian attack on the election, which, just as you have been saying, and just as you played Obama saying, did not involve technical messing around with voting equipment, but did involve hacking the DNC and releasing emails. It did involve buying social media ads in the service of something that Marco Rubio's report said, which is that the Russians tampered with the election, not through the technical means, in the service of Donald Trump. But of course, now that Marco Rubio and Tulsi Gabbard are working for Donald Trump, reality has been inverted. And what troubles me most about this, Nicole, is that I'm standing in a spot that on January 6, 2021 was overrun by a violent mob intent on hanging the vice president and killing people like me. And it was all driven by a lie propagated by Donald Trump. And now we're seeing that playbook again. And my only question is, when people like Tulsi Gabbard and Donald Trump accuse an ex-president of a capital crime that is punishable by death, who is going to die? Who is going to die because they've decided that they need a distraction away from the Epstein calamity, which they brought upon themselves?
Well, I mean, it's a dark place that we find ourselves in. And I think that Trump has led all of us to the underbelly of his movement's deepest passions by botching the Epstein file release that he promised his base so badly that we're all down in the rabbit hole with him, trying to understand how conspiracies drive his voters' passions. Say more about how we protect people targeted by his lies, and say more about your prediction that someone will die.
Well, again, when you use language like treason, and I mean, go into my social media feeds, because I've been trying to tell the truth about this ever since Tulsi put out this staggeringly disprovable and instantly disprovable lie. When you start using the kind of language, the language of treason and of somebody being a traitor, some tiny percentage of the population is just crazy enough to decide that they need to do something about it. And again, it's what happened where I am standing right now on January 6, 2021. The statements of a president have some power. And by the way, 4 weeks from now, or 5 weeks from now, or 6 weeks from now, we all need to ask the question, and I will certainly ask the question, which is, okay, the former president is a traitor. Where is the Department of Justice indictment? Where is the prosecution of Barack Obama? But it will be Epstein all over again, because 4 or 5 weeks from now, there will, of course, be no prosecution of a Barack Obama, because there's not a court in the land that would do anything other than laugh the DOJ and the prosecutors out of the room. But by then we'll be on to the next bizarro conspiracy theory to try to distract from the fact that no, they're not going to prosecute Barack Obama.
Let me show you. I mean, accusing someone of treason isn't new. Accusing a former president.
Y es que, mis amigos, Donald Trump ha cruzado una línea que ni siquiera él mismo había cruzado antes. Hablamos de acusar a un expresidente de traición sin tener pruebas. Y todo desde la oficina oval. O sea, no solo es un acto irresponsable, ¿no? Sino que es potencialmente peligroso. Hablamos de que un líder utiliza ciertas palabras como culpable o como banda criminal, conspiración, traición. Está encendiendo la chispa para que algunos de sus seguidores más radicales pasen del discurso a la acción. Pues bueno, ¿cuál es el motivo real detrás de todo esto? Claramente, desviar la atención del desastre Epstein, un escándalo que, como bien sabemos, involucra directo o indirectamente a Trump y que amenaza con derrumbar no solo su imagen, sino que su carrera política. Además de atacar a Obama, Trump se rodea de figuras como Tulsi Gabbard, quien ahora pues solo sabe repetir esta narrativa, y un departamento de justicia que está dispuesto al 100% para complacerlo. Al menos en apariencia, ¿no? Jueces, que incluso él mismo nombró, están empezando a rechazar estas locuras con un tipo de mezcla de risa, preocupación y de miedo. Pero el problema aquí es mucho más grave, porque ya hemos visto esto. 6 de enero de 2021 no fue un accidente, señores, fue el resultado directo de semanas de discursos como este. Acusaciones sin pruebas, sembrar el odio, conspiración. Y les aseguro que si continúan con este camino, ¿quién va a ser el próximo objetivo? ¿Quién va a estar en peligro por una mentira útil políticamente? Esto, señores, es una estrategia que no se puede permitir. No podemos dejar que la distracción se normalice. Yo les pregunto a ustedes, ¿creen que Trump tiene que rendir cuentas por estas acusaciones actuales, que son completamente falsas? ¿Qué opinan ustedes de este nuevo intento por querer manipular la opinión pública? Los invito a que me dejen sus opiniones en la caja de comentarios. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarme hasta el final de este video. Recuerden, ayúdame con un like, comparte el video con tus amigos, suscríbete a nuestro canal Políticamente en Desacuerdo. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Hasta luego.